This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread, and today we're going to continue with our deep dive into the best-in-class finance department. Today's episode is titled, Tips for Managing Accounts Receivables. So tips for managing accounts receivables, or what people will call AR oftentimes. Many times I'll actually use that and people will say, hey, just what's an AR? Are you talking about a gun, like an AR-15? No, I'm talking about accounts receivable. So in our organizational chart in the last few episodes, we dealt with the fact that the CFO or the CPA or somebody in your organization is managing the treasury of your company. And we dealt with the fact of how much cash you need. And today we're dealing with accounts receivable. How are you going to get paid? Or if you place people on accounts receivable. And I want to give you several tips today on how you can improve your accounts receivable. In fact, almost 20 of them today that I want to go through. So let's jump right into this. The very first thing you can do in order to enhance your accounts receivable in your organization is to be organized. Yeah, I know it sounds simple, but you can just set up some basic things. For example, you can start by setting up a professional credit application that gives you all the information you need from your customers. So if you, instead of doing just a basic, hey, we'll bill you, you can do a credit app. And then you'll be able to vet the customers to make sure they're proper customers for yourself. Then if you decided to move forward with the credit, then you can make sure that you have clear contact and you can state in the credit application the terms to which you're going to operate so the customer knows when they have to pay you and what they're going to be paying you for. So many doctors' offices miss this. They just bill the customer and then they have to spend so much money chasing it down when it'd be very simple just to do a credit app to begin with. Also, you could make sure that you're using a top-notch invoicing software. And we're going to talk about technology several times, but you can make sure you're using a top-notch invoicing software. You know, several different industries have their own custom software. I was actually just speaking with a client, and he owns an auto garage where they do repairs on cars and stuff. And in his garage, he has a custom-built software which helps invoice people for the work they've done. So the first thing you can do is get organized. Now, you've heard me say that multiple times. I often talk about it in our budget or in the way we spend money. But friends, in business, you have to be organized, especially when it comes to accounts receivable. You could, number two, expedite the invoice processing. See, many times in the old school, people would send bills or invoices in the mail. Well, if you got organized properly in step number one, then you could actually email customers. Or you may be able to fax customers a copy of their bill. But you can expedite the process. You can move quicker to the point to where you cause the customer to have to pay you. The third thing you can do is use a credit limit. Now, this is one of the things that I love. I often recommend that our entrepreneur doctors and many of our business owners who extend credit, that they use a credit limit, and it gives you all sorts of power. You would start by extending very moderate terms to the customers, and you let them know how they can work their way to more flexible terms. So you may start off saying cash is due within 90 days. But then as you get a process, you may say, instead of the payment not due in 90 days, we're going to allow you to have 6 months to pay this particular order, as long as we have a collateral or you have a credit card on file or something. I mean, there's a number of ways to play that, but you can use credit limit to your advantage. So that's the third thing I would tell you. The fourth thing I would say is you want to revise your customer payment terms. So go back to step number one. If you're getting organized and you're getting all the information, you're laying out the details so your customer clearly knows what they're dealing with, then you may want to revise the terms. So some people would say billing is a net 30. In other words, is due within 30 days upon billing. You could change that from billing net 30 billing to payment is due upon receipt. So there's a way that you can revise the terms that will allow or communicate to the customer they owe you faster than what maybe they're used to. Go back to this last three steps now. Instead of mailing somebody, you could email them the invoice. So instead of waiting for 5, 6, 7, 10 days for turnaround time and then having a net 30, you could email them and say due upon receipt. Our IT guy that we use in our office, he actually does that. He does billing. I'm laughing because I told him to do this. He bills me due upon receipt. Now, Typically, people will pay within 30 days. That's customary. But if you organize yourself up front, begin with that you want to do it upon receipt, and late fees will start occurring within a certain amount of time based on your jurisdiction and the laws that you communicate with, you could affect the way that your accounts receivables work. Now, as you're working through accounts receivable, number 5 is you're going to have to communicate effectively. You're going to be creative. See, the CRM system, which I've talked about many times, is one of the most valuable tools that so many small businesses underutilize. And it allows you to build strong and healthy relationships with your customers or your clients. And you're not going to jeopardize that. So you want to communicate with your clients, perhaps using social media, perhaps using emails, perhaps special occasions on their birth dates, etc. You want to communicate clear and effective to create a constant communication with your customers. That's paramount. Number 6 is you want to start early. Don't sit around just waiting for customers to pay you. Create a system that allows you to remind customers that they have a payment due around the corner. So if it's a week before the payment's due, maybe you shoot them a text message through your CRM system. Maybe you have an email that goes out. Maybe you have a phone call that goes out, so that you're starting early so that you don't run into a late issue with your customers. The 7th thing you could do is change your billing cycle. You could send customers invoice as soon as you complete the job rather than using like an end of the month cycle. Oftentimes people say, well, we bill once a month. Well, why not bill whenever you get finished with a job? You can actually make your collections come to you faster, and it actually smooths out your cash flow a little bit. Many times I'll see manufacturing companies that they will have big billables due at the end of the month, and their cash flow is waning because of that. So you can change your billing cycle around a little bit. That's the 7th tip. The 8th tip that I would give you is to offer multiple payment options. Offer multiple payment options. We live in a day of cards. I'm pretty amazed to see that so many retail companies won't accept card. It's pretty amazing to me. I ran into one the other day that says cash only, and they're a retail company, a retail store in a storefront building. And I'm like, I don't have any cash on me. Well, you can go to the ATM machine right around the area there. Well, okay. I understand the reason for this. I understand the reason why people don't want to accept credit cards, because they may say that someone never got it. The credit card company takes a percentage of bills. I've heard them all. I've even heard somebody say, I'm going to get scammed. Somebody's going to come in and pay with a credit card, take the goods and services, and then file a complaint saying that they never received the goods and services. So now I have to fight with the credit card company proving they actually did receive the goods and services. I get that. I get all those things. And there's a time and place for all those circumstances. For example, there is a law firm that I truly love that they will not accept credit cards. They only accept check. There's another company whom I work with that only accepts cashier's checks. So you want to offer multiple payment methods. You want to give the customers the ability to use cash or a check or a cashier's check or a PayPal account or Bitcoin. I actually read the other day that one of the states in the United States will accept Bitcoin as payment for taxes. I thought that was interesting. Now, I didn't verify that, but I thought that was interesting nonetheless when I read that. I was like, that's interesting. So you want to open up multiple credit payment options. And number 9 is don't wait. This is basic accounts receivable management, just basic 101 grade level. What I mean by don't wait is if you find out that a payment is late, then do not hesitate. Don't wait. Go ahead and start the collection process. The longer you wait to start a collections process, the slimmer the chances of you receiving full payment is. Go straight after late payments the minute they pass the late date. So that's number 9.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
Number 10 is remind. Constantly remind people, customers, that a payment is late. You know, some customers don't realize they have a late payment. I'm thinking of a particular example in my life. I had a doctor bill that I honestly am not aware that I ever received at my house. Never received it. And all of a sudden I get a collections call from a collector saying, Mr. Goodbread, you had this particular thing done and you owe the doctor X number of dollars and they've tried multiple times to invoice you. And I'm like, hold on. I haven't seen an invoice from a doctor in any time. Can you send that to me? Well, it's been mailed, and they named 5 or 6 times it's been mailed. And I'm like, sir, I'm sorry. I do not remember seeing that. See, if the doctor had simply reminded, or if the doctor had called, if the doctor had done some things, and instead of having a collections company call, which would take a percentage of the money that they were going to collect, then they could have simply just reminded me, hey, look, there was a bill due. I honestly was waiting for the bill. Now, sometimes people are often chronic late payers. At that point, you just got to be a little bit more severe, but there's always that first time offense. I mean, I honestly was not trying to stiff the doctor for the job that they did, but I just didn't know. So you want to constantly remind people that bills are due. Number 11 is you want to stay professional. The worst thing you can do whenever you realize that a payment is late is get emotional. Now, granted, don't get me wrong. We should be emotional as business owners. We performed a duty that someone has received from us, that they owe us money for our goods or services. Yeah, we have every right to be upset, but we don't want to get emotional and cause emotions to cloud the professionalism that we should have as business owners. If you're a small business owner, then chances are your friends and people are going to see you out in the golf course, at the grocery store, at the church. They're going to see you, and you don't want anything that's going to ruin the relationship. So always try to stay calm. The 12th thing we're going to deal with is you want to maintain a positive relationship with customers. So going hand in hand with being professional is you want to constantly keep your customers satisfied. Now, I'm not advocating by no means that you're going to allow customers to run over you and not pay you, or you're going to allow customers to come in and steal a particular good or service. That's not what I'm meaning. But you want to give people the benefit of doubt. Remind, stay professional, and then be positive. Build those relationships with your customers. Life happens. You know this. We have a client who is in the medical field. He's actually a chiropractor. I'll say that. We have several chiropractors, mind you, but we have a client, and he was talking about that he could recognize inside his late payees people that just were having hard times. And one of the things that he does at year end, he doesn't do this consistently. By the way, they're not an East Tennessee company. It's pretty amazing, but they don't do this consistently. Instead, what they go in and do is at year end, they make a charitable gift. They write off as a Merry Christmas present to those individuals who are having hard times. That's a positive relationship. And from those gifts, with that positive relationship with those customers who are indeed having a hard time, they often get more referrals and more business and more blessings from that single act of kindness. So you want to build positive relationships with clients. The 13th thing I want to deal with is create a collection call. After you've received a letter or after you receive 2 or 3 invoices, there's nothing wrong with you getting on the phone and calling the customer. Go back to the doctor bill that I had. First of all, I never received the invoice. I was actually looking for it. I never received any letter saying I was delinquent, and I never received any phone calls. In fact, the very first phone call I received was from a collection company. I'm like, come on, people. This is a bad process. One of the things you can do, a tip, is to create a collection call. Have your most jovial, most fun person that just loves life. Get on the phone, just be jovial, people. Hey, we noticed that we're a little late. Is there anything we can do? What's going on? We need to start a payment plan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever your policy is, but you can create a collection call. The 14th thing I'm going to tell you is that no matter what happens, inevitably be prepared for excuses. Yeah, we've all used them. We run late for a meeting and we say traffic happened. We didn't do our homework and the dog ate it. We got lost somewhere and, well, I can't make an excuse for that because I really did get lost somewhere and people started laughing at me. But we make excuses nonetheless. We all do it. What we have to do whenever that happens is to sympathize, to understand, and then to create a alternative for those individuals who are making excuses for not paying. It may be a payment plan I just talked about, which goes into number 15 is installment plans. Whenever you hear consistent excuses, you may want to start an installment plan. Doctors are good about this. They'll say, well, you owe us $20,000, but if you just pay $2 for the rest of your life, we'll be okay with that. Again, that's extreme, but you get the point. To getting a small amount over time is much better than having the customer not pay you at all or filing bankruptcy on you. So you may want to consider an installment plan if you've created an AR nightmare, an accounts receivable nightmare. The number 16 is you want to establish conservative credit policies. Now, this goes way back, but now that you've seen through all the different things you would have to do, take a step back and go back to the beginning of the process and create credit policies that allow you to offer attractive offers to your long-term customers, but it doesn't extend too much amount that can end up harming your business or your flow or creating too much labor for your employees. So you can establish some conservative credit policies. Number 17 is finance charges and rewards. So these are initiatives go a long way. No matter what you're dealing with, if you add a finance charge to a late payment, or if you give somebody a discount to pay it off early. So this is a game that some stores will play. What they'll do is they'll say, you're late, so we're going to add a 15% fee, but if you pay this in the next 10 days, we'll waive the fee. That's just a game. So basically, you're creating a consequence for a late payment, and then you're giving a reward for paying it off early. So that's a finance charge and reward game that can be done. Again, every state, every jurisdiction is going to have a slightly different rules on that. So I'm going to tell you to speak with your attorney on what's allowable in your particular area. But that's one of the things I've seen clients use over the years. It's to create a finance charge and rewards. Number 18 is you have to have outside resources at your disposal. I'm going to tell you this is where you're going to work with credit bureaus, debt collection attorneys. You're going to work with a team of professionals who can help you with delinquent accounts. This may be where you even hire a credit collection company. Go back to the doctor's office. Now, I don't think they did the process right, but inevitably they hired a name brand collection company who had the ability to get to me. And they got to me, and I picked the phone up and said, hello, this is Justin. And he let me know what it was concerning, and I instantly paid the bill. Now, the doctor in my case could have mitigated that, but nonetheless, my case is not always a case, as we all know, for our businesses. Number 19 is the experts. It's okay to turn to the experts. If you're having a hard time managing your accounts receivable, it's okay to hire a coach. It's okay to hire an advisor to help you with your accounts receivable. It's okay. You may say, well, Justin, I'm the CFO of our company. I actually have a couple of CFOs whom I know listen to the show. And they say, Justin, I'm the CFO. I'm supposed to be the expert. Friends, there's no way that any one person can be the expert in all matters. So it's okay to hire an expert to help you make the wisest decisions in the accounts receivable process. So there you have it. There's 19 tips on how you can enhance your accounts receivable process. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this particular episode. Hey, do me a favor. Check out the financiallysimple.com blog and sign up for the newsletter. We have a ton of people. I cannot believe the amount of people and the amount of notes that I get from the newsletter. And when you read it, do me a favor and reply and say, hey, Justin, this was an awesome newsletter. My email is justin@financiallysimple.com. So feel free to reach out to me. If you have any questions, comments, love the show, hate the show, let me know. I like hearing things from the listeners. If you like the podcast, do me a favor, share it with a friend. If you have another business owner who can take advantage of this podcast, do so. Actually, I had one of our clients in Texas shared it with a friend in Alabama, and the Alabama friend shared it with an individual in Missouri. All three of them are similar businesses, and all three of them are receiving help from the podcast and the contents. And I've heard from all three of them. I thought that was an interesting trifecta. Hey, look, as I say every week, life is hard. Life is good, and life can be frustrating. Money doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Y'all go out and create a great day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.